Hello, welcome back to Mediums in Action, and it's a very, very special Christmas version. So if you can hear little jingle bells at the moment, you're not going mad. It is actually our Christmas version, and the jingle bells mean that it is Christmas. And shaking those jingle bells is my good friend and medium Ian Doherty.
Hello, Martin, and thank you for the very warm welcome, and a Merry Christmas to everybody, whether you follow it or not. I wish you the best at this time of year.
I know you're not a huge follower of astrology, but next year seems to be a little bit more grounded rather than sort of people's plans being up in the air and governments being in disarray. Apparently next year, certainly in the second half, we'll see a more grounded aspect. How do you feel spiritually things are happening?
Spiritually, I do feel there's quite a surge forward, where I do feel, and we had a little chat about this a little while ago, there's the wanting to know about spirit, there's the wanting to know, other than taking the faith aspect of world religions, and I think people want to find out their own answer about spirituality, and I do feel there's a big push forward there. There seems to me very much of a creative sort of flow that seems to me to be going January through to the month of March. So I do believe opens new doors for a lot of people. It's almost like having the what's that? I can't remember what the tarot card is. When you have the high priest where he's searching for something, divination. I feel that is very typified, or will be typified in April for a lot of people. So I think they're going on soul journeys, for want of a better way.
I certainly feel that these last 2-3 years, it's got stronger and stronger that people are looking for sort of secular beliefs and looking at spiritualism, looking at all of these sorts of peripheral beliefs rather than looking at established religion. So I think there's a big move. I think even paganism is kind of suffering in a way. I think people are trying to find their own path.
I think I do believe that's going to be a major change, but of this year, particularly what's happening now in France and that, I do feel there's a wake-up call where people are sick of it, so they want, they don't want to be, I wouldn't say under the thumb, that's sort of putting things a little bit to call it strict purpose, but I just get the sense that people are standing up and thinking, well, we can have more, we're more in charge, and and we've got that right to ask questions, so I feel that comes into 2019.
Yeah, I certainly feel that. And I think from Spirit's point of view, there is this feeling that there is going to be a larger increase in spiritual matters. And I think that's certainly our part to play as well, where as people who communicate with Spirit, it's not a religious sort of point of view in that we've got to bang the drum and generate as many followers as possible. But certainly to be there to offer people advice and let them find their own feet. And certainly it comes back to that, what we're saying, if we can give people a good foundation, then they can move on and kind of formulate their own belief systems as well.
Yeah, definitely with you on that one.
So over Christmas, I think, I don't know how you feel about Christmas and ghosts. I know sort of traditionally, I don't know if you know this, Ian, but traditionally with ghosts, people at around 1:00 in the afternoon, after the Christmas dinner, we're talking sort of Regency period, Victorian period, people would retreat round a piano or round the fire, and they would start to tell ghost stories. It was a tradition for 100, 200 years to tell ghost stories on Christmas Day. So now, obviously, that's been replaced by the EastEnders Christmas special. For our American listeners, EastEnders is a soap opera which has a very, very bleak Christmas episode every year. But yeah, it was a time far more associated to ghosts than it is now. But we still have people questioning and saying, why do I feel spirit more around Christmas? Are our loved ones around us more around Christmas than any other time? I mean, what's your feelings about it, Ian?
Well, certainly from a spiritual and a spiritualist point of view, Christmas is, the time for family to get together, and when there's an upsurge in feelings, because it may be through work situations or situations that stop family being in that same place. Getting together is such a relief. It's an outpouring of feeling. We can say sorry for any past harm or issues. And I do feel family in spirit want to be part of that. They want to encourage it. They want to be, very, very much in evidence, and I do feel particularly those who've been through loss leading up towards Christmas, then it's a very, very special time, and their thoughts naturally go over to loved ones, and therefore that those loved ones naturally gravitate closer because thoughts are with them. So I feel it's a very magical time, not in the sense of Santa, but in the sense of ghosts of Christmas past and the present, and I just get the sense it's all the niceties, the feelings, emotions. Everybody, we get it through cultures, we get it through the media. Everybody wants to get close. They want to feel that, the family singing carols, as you said, in the Victorian era, and be around the central log fire and just have fun. And I do feel that is the essence of what Spirit want to teach. Is helping each other, be there for each other. So I feel it's a natural gravitation. That's not to say, of course, that Spirit are not around us for the other parts of the year, but I do feel it is much closer with the feelings, oblique emotions that come of the Christmas time.
I think also as well is the connection there, where we are in everyday lives, where we are working or we are caring for people or whatever we're doing. Often we are not aware of Spirit's interaction around us, and it's at time around Christmas when we are thinking more about that particular person or persons that we are aware of that particular person, that we might smell their perfume, we might be aware of their presence, we might feel personality traits around us. And what tends to happen is I think the connection is easier around this time, because also as well is for a lot of people there's more time off. We think about those people. I know certainly in my family there was a tradition that certainly on Christmas week you'd visit the graves of families and leave flowers for Christmas. And it sounds a bit ridiculous in a way that you're leaving Christmas flowers for somebody who passed away 10, 15 years ago. But I suppose it comes back to like that old veneration of the dead. And at Christmas, it's another veneration of the dead. Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol, the ghost of Christmas past, Christmas present and Christmas future. There's obviously the theme of death running through the whole of that. At Christmas, it's easier to connect with people just because you're in that mind frame. You're not thinking about particular timescales of work or jobs or anything like that. Instead, you are actually thinking about the people that you have lost.
Yeah, there is that, and then there's the feel good factor is towards other people. Work colleagues, people you just pass every day in the shops. Then generally there's a good feel factor, and I think that also helps because it relaxes the mind. It makes us feel very, very grateful for what we do have and more sorrowful for what we deem as people being less fortunate than us. So there's an outpouring of feeling. There can be an outpouring of grief, but it's more of an outpouring of feeling of linked into the ghosts of the past and present and future. I want to change my ways. I want to be a better person. I want to be a better person than I was in the past. So I feel that is very, very central to the theme of Christmas, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly Christmas Eve used to be known as a very spooky time, and hence why Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol happens on Christmas Eve, because it was associated with the dead. And I do suggest to people out there that on Christmas Eve you do light a candle, and not to tie in with any Christian veneration, but to actually light a candle for hope and for light, and to bring hope and light to people around the world, also for the people who have passed as a veneration. Light a candle and just say thanks and thank you. And while the candle's burning, think about the amount of light we could bring into this world and positivity for the future as well.
That's lovely words, that, Martin. And, if people are able to, then I do feel it would be of benefit to the world and benefit to that person as well.
Well, you imagine everybody's thoughts and consciousness towards lighting a candle and thinking about positivity in the world, and that can only be a good thing. Certainly from my side, and I know you share similar views, is that we are connected consciously. If we can all raise our positivity, then we might start doing more good things than bad things. And I don't mean you personally, Ian. So.
No. I know. I could be a little bit of a cynic around Christmas, but certainly the spirituality aspect is absolutely beautiful this time of year.
Absolutely, yeah. It is nice, and I know with my children, when we've been to the Christmas Carol concerts in church, and even though I'm not a Christian, you can't help but feel the energy of certainly the words that are spoken. And again, I'm talking about the words that we look for love. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight. And that particular carol is something that really resonates with me, because it suggests that, all the hopes and all the fears and the anxiety were sort of met. They were hoping for some sort of savior to this. And actually, what I would argue is the savior is in all of us, is that all of us can be saviors to this world, whether on an ecological point of view, which is very prevalent at the moment, or just generally being nice.
Definitely. It is change, transformation for a lot of people, say, not just within the sort of the New Year resolutions, or if people make them, of course, but I think it's a period of reflection of what we have, seeing and feeling the love around us, and then wanting to make a difference, So I feel 2019 is going to be off the back of Christmas, really, where in the fact I do feel the spirituality, particularly around April, is going to be governed from this time of year.
I totally agree with you. I think from Spirit, and Spirit's talking to me now, that there is a turning point in April. So maybe there is a big worldly change or announcement that certainly does waken up spirituality as a whole. After that period, it might be a scientific. I certainly feel science is involved.
I was just wanted to say I was very much aware of it not being anything to do with a cataclysm or anything. It's
no.
It's certainly linked to global consciousness, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we have to look at the positive aspects, and so Christmas is again often associated to ghosts and spirits, and it's interesting that we do start thinking about it. And have you ever done any ghost hunts around Christmas? I remember two for me. One was Bisham Abbey and one was Dudley.
Done Dudley a couple of times around the Christmas period, and around the Galleries of Justice as well. I feel people. It's like Halloween in a sense. People are wanting that veil to be ever so thin, and they're sort of thinking, I'm going to see a ghost, around every single corner. So I just feel there's a fascination with it. There's oh my goodness, it's going to be real, and I do feel people's heightened consciousness in the fact that they firmly believe that the fabric wears thinner, the fabric being between this world and the spirit world, and we see, hear and feel more. So from that point of view, there's always, it seems to me, to be more active, but I feel that people partly add to that, to be honest.
My favourite ghost hunt that took place at Christmas was Dudley Castle, and Dudley Castle's on top of a very tall hill overlooking the West Midlands. And I think it was about the 21st of December. Quite a nice night. It was quite warm, and surprisingly for December, we went on a ghost tour, which was very good. As we walked round, the jackass penguins, which sound like donkeys, scared half of the people. Well, you can imagine in a very alien sort of habitat, you've got jackdaw penguins yammering on at you, and then we went back to do the vigils, and I always remember this. For the final vigil, we got everybody back into the Undercroft, and it was a bit quiet, but it began to feel really cold, and it was really quite serene and quiet and cold, and we had a little bit of activity, nothing amazing. And I said to everybody, I said, well, thank you very much, I hope you all have a good Christmas. And as I opened the door outside, and there was about 3 inches of snow outside, and it wasn't at all predicted. It wasn't, we weren't expecting it or anything like that. But just to see Dudley Castle underneath a fresh coat of snow was absolutely magical. It was amazing. Everybody came out and went, oh wow, this is amazing.
I mean, Castle looks brilliant as it is. It looks very easy, very eerie in the moonlight, but in the snow, it's beautiful.
Honestly, and it was just something amazing. It looked incredible, and it was a good night. We had a good Christmas dinner, and the activity was okay. And but what really summed it up was walking out in the snow. It just made Christmas, and I remember that one. And I remember Bisham Abbey. And did you ever get to do Bisham Abbey, Ian?
I did. I've been there three, maybe 4 times, I think. But it's absolutely beautiful place. You know, the feelings from it are awesome. Particularly the upper rooms to the right-hand side, back of the building, are beautiful. You know,
it was incredible. And I remember at Christmas that we were there, and the big main hall, which is medieval, and it's even got a viewpoint where Henry VIII used to overlook the hall when he used to stay there. And this particular night, the security guard was leaving. Sorry, not the security guard, it was the night manager was leaving, and said, would you like to go and have a look at the haunted room? Bisham Abbey is very famous for this ghost story, which you could easily fairly discredit. But the story all hinges on this top room where this child was made to do their work, their homework, and this was back in the 1500s, and he actually died in that room. And they took us up to this top room, and just before the night manager put the key in, there was an almighty bang on the door. And I said, "You're messing around, aren't you?" And they went, "No, I'm really not. Can I give you the key to open it?" So I thought, it's setting me up here. I opened the door, and as I opened it, it was an absolute empty room. There was nothing in it. It was just absolutely plain. And I said, well, what could have caused that bang? And we tried to work it out. We tried to work out if the front door was open, would it slam? If we tried all sorts of things, honestly, and we could not do it. And it was definitely a bang from inside the room. So whether that ghost story is true or not doesn't really resonate with me. I'm not interested in that. We did definitely hear some sort of physical activity that night, and again, it just happened to happen at Christmas, and we were only about 3 foot away, and something internal definitely banged on the door. It wasn't like a door slam or anything like that. It was like somebody really hit it with the palm of their hand. It was a very interesting.
Remember that time we did Middleton Hall, and we're in the back museum room, I think it was, and that was very much around Christmas time. I'm positive it was. We'd all got into that room because it was the biggest of the rooms apart from the main hall, and I'm sure you were there because we had footsteps approaching the door along the corridor that is outside the room that we were in, and we all heard the footsteps, and we heard the door opening or being turned, and yet you open the door and there's nobody there. You know, it was
we did. Do you know, I do remember that. And if I remember correctly, Ian, actually, we heard a noise outside.
Yeah.
So I actually had the door open. I'm sure we had the door open, so everybody was there.
At one point, we did, because we were questioning whether it was the staff there, weren't we?
Yeah, and actually there was a guy with me because we were near the door. And everybody heard the footsteps walk down that long corridor. We heard a door sound, and I think it might have been yourself who said, "Do you think it's the staff, Martin?" And exactly at that same time, from the opposite side of the yard, we saw the 2 members of staff come out of their private lodgings. So it was like,
it's one thing that we do check, isn't it, to rule things out. But it's ever so real, when you're not, you're not thinking, "Oh, we're going to have this happen." It's a world of its own, really, isn't it?
Well, the good thing is there was people stood next to me, so they saw the staff members come out. So 100% we knew we were in that building by ourselves. This was sort of 2:00 in the morning, Middleton again is an amazing place. And Middleton, we're talking about Middleton Hall near Tamworth, not the one in Manchester, but Middleton Hall was part Elizabethan, part Georgian, and just an incredible building. And well worth visiting. If they ever have an open day, get yourself there, because it's Norman, it's Elizabethan, it's Georgian, an incredible venue. I wouldn't say it was ever the most active place, but we did continually have really very strange incidents happening there, and especially around Christmas, strangely. Yeah,
it is. It's a beautiful place.
Just moving on slightly, for Christmas, I asked Father Christmas that I wanted DNA testing. I don't know if you've ever heard of these, Ian, but what you can do is you can have your DNA tested.
Yeah.
And what you have to do is you wipe either wipe a swab in your mouth, or you send your saliva off to a laboratory. And I think that's where Santa's elves then get onto your DNA. But what happens is the one I've chosen, which is called 1, 2, 3 and Me, and I think that's 123 chromosomes or something. And what they do is they tell you with apparently 98% accuracy where your family was from over the last 200 years, and where their genes came from as well. And also they talk about that they're also able to tell you what traits I have from Neanderthal. So that's going to be interesting as well. Apparently, and anybody who's listening to this, if you sneeze when you have dark chocolate, that is a throwback from when we was Neanderthal. It's apparently how they used to react to it, and it's one particular gene that's come all the way back from those many thousands of years. So,
wow.
I thought we could do a bit of a test with spirit and see what spirit feel is going to come back. Obviously, spirit have more information than what we do.
Yeah, granted.
Just so people know, my sort of background is my family's background is very, very British orientated. My family traces back to Cumbria and also Northumbria, and strangely, both sets of family were blacksmiths. So if I had to put a bet on this, and I am a betting man, I would say it's literally going to say that all my genes have just come from Britain and nowhere else. But I have inklings. But Ian, what do you feel?
Well, I do feel here, please, and bear in mind, obviously, people migrate over time. I don't feel, however, there's any Celt there. Do you know what I mean? So I do feel it's very British Romano, whatever. But for some reason, I'm getting Kent, Hastings, and I do feel you're looking at southern France. That is my feeling there, to be honest.
My inkling is maybe this is a past life thing, or maybe or something, but I do feel that I have a link with the Irish. Now, with the Irish, apparently there's links with Spain, so if there was something like 4% Spanish stroke Irish, then I wouldn't be surprised. I'd feel that was actually right. So I do feel like there will be some Irish, that sort of feeling. So I kind of think it'll be something like 80% British and 5% Spanish, and then another 15% Australian. No.
I thought yourself, has he got those? No, just making them up.
I'm just making it. No, but seriously, I think it'll break down into English versus Irish.
Yeah.
I asked my guide, and I asked her I said, could you give me an idea of where I come from? After some very cryptic replies, again, it kind of represented that I have a Mediterranean background, or that sort of south of France, Italy, Sicily, that sort of thing. I certainly don't have any family that comes from there. So if it is there, then similar to you, I think that's come direct from spirit. So in the next program, when I have my DNA tests, as long as they're not incredibly surprising and I'm Laplandic or something, Yeah, we'll review them. We'll definitely review them for everybody.
Yeah, to see how it goes. It'll be very interesting. I think I've got quite a big mix, to be perfectly honest, with mine. To be, where I do feel, where because I'm Welsh born, my father's Irish, so there's a lot of Celt there, but I get the sense as well. It probably goes, maybe over to again southern England. I feel.
Ah, right. Well, it's interesting because obviously you've got an Irish name, Dorothy, but sort of Wales. I mean, they are the sort of last remnants of the English. Well, not I don't want to say English. The Anglos or the early tribes of Britain. Obviously, they went into two areas, were driven into Wales and driven into Scotland. So yeah, you'll have to do it sometime, Ian, and it'll be interesting. We'll have to test you as well, and we'll see what Spirit says. But yeah, I can imagine that yours would be very sort of wholly Welsh and Irish as well. I think that kind of draws to end our podcast. We will say the results in the next podcast, by the way, everybody. And also as well is if you have any idea from Spirit or you have any sensations or feelings of where my ancestors could come from, please leave a message on our Facebook or anything like that. I'd be interested to hear what you say. And is there anything else you'd like to talk about, Ian, before we go?
No, just to wish people a very good time at this time of year. If you're with family, if you can't get with family, then send your thoughts out to your loved ones, spirit side. And as Martin was saying, if you've got the time, try to sit down. You don't have to have a real candle. It does help. It focuses, and then just send out love to that world. Whether you feel daft at doing it, it really doesn't matter. It's the intent of wanting things better. And I wish you well.
Really lovely sentiments, Ian. I totally back that up. I doubt we'll do another podcast before the new year, but I'd like anybody who's given us support over this last year, people like Marion and all the people who have shared our podcast and who've liked it, who've reviewed it, who've just listened to it and subscribed. We thank you very much. We will be back next year. We do have some interesting developments that we're doing to the podcast. We shall we announce it now, Ian? Do you think that will?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, we are also going to be having some special guests coming in onto the podcast. So we have an interesting guest for January, something very completely different to what we do normally. We think it's about expanding horizons, and it's about listening to other people, because it's all right having a blinkered view, but it's nice to get other people's senses and ideas about the spiritual world as well. Have a great Christmas. Please give time for yourself and also the world. And we'll see you in the new year.
Yeah, bye-bye. Thank you.